So I did it, I managed to astral project. And today I'm going to tell you guys about that experience, how it happened. Hey guys, welcome back to Tipharot. It's me Matt here, and today I'm talking about my recent astral projection experience. Now, as some of you may know, I recently set out to learn how to astral project. I actually astral projected for the first time back in 2015, and I did it a few times then, but all of these experiences were so short, like I would just have the experience and not actually be able to do anything in it. I would get out of body and that would be it. And so I didn't really know what to make of it all. I knew based on those experiences that it appeared to be something different from a standard lucid dream. You know, there were very different characteristics of this experience, but I didn't really know what to make of it, and so I wanted to learn how to do it. Now, I took a long break from attempting how to do it, and recently in 2017 I set a goal to learn how to do it, and to learn to do it with some frequency so that I can, explore the experience and decide what I believe about it. Because that's something that I like to do. I don't take people's word for how the world works or how things are. I'll look at different beliefs and I will say, okay, he's got some points here, he's got some points here, but I will ultimately make up my own opinion based on my own experiences. I will go through experiencing those things and then see what I think based on that. So that's what I'm trying to do with astral projection. Anyway, I started trying to do it and I didn't really have much luck. I've been doing it for, I can't even remember how long now, but at least a month and a half, I think, something like that I've been trying. And, I wouldn't try it every single night because a lot of nights, I was just feeling kind of too tired to bother practicing. But I would try it every, 3 nights or something like that. More recently, it was a little bit more frequently than that. And I would, basically what I was trying to do is to get into a lucid dream and then to get out of that lucid dream, enter sleep paralysis and project from there. The reason that I do this is I find it astonishingly hard to get into sleep paralysis from the waking state. I struggle to relax. Basically, I have restless legs when I'm in bed and so on, and it's very, very hard for me to relax. It's kind of hard for me to fall asleep and so on. And so being relaxed enough to get into sleep paralysis is almost impossible for me. But there is a way around that, and that is why I use lucid dreaming to get there. I get into a lucid dream because I find wild works pretty quickly for me. I can get into a lucid dream within a few minutes at the longest. Then once I'm in a lucid dream, I can wake myself up and just remain really, really still. Because if you actually wake up from a lucid dream and you just stay perfectly still, you'll enter sleep paralysis within a matter of seconds. 5 seconds you'll be in sleep paralysis if you don't move a muscle, don't even, move your head side to side or whatever. Then you'll be in sleep paralysis. So that was my goal, to try and do that. Now, within, I think, the first few days of actually trying this, I managed to get into sleep paralysis. So I start performing a technique then. There are several techniques. One of them is a rope technique, where you basically imagine yourself climbing a rope out of your body. And I did that, and I felt the vibrations starting. These vibrations are something that you experience where it feels like you've got these vibrations going up your spine, up the back of your head and so on. And those are characteristic of the experience before you actually experience, the leaving sensation and so on. So I got that far, but I didn't get any further. A couple more times I ended up in that same place. But a lot of the time what I found is that I would get into a lucid dream and I would just completely forget about my goal of astral projecting. There are different levels of lucidity, and sometimes I was very lucid and I remembered my goals and what I set out to do, but other times I would be, not lucid enough to remember any of my goals, or I would be, lucid enough, but I wouldn't remember, which of my goals took priority. And so I would have, some other goals I wanted to get done, cool things I wanted to try out, and I would just end up doing those instead of trying to astral project. There were other times still when I remembered that I was trying to astral project, but I thought, I'll just play around with this lucid dream and enjoy it a bit first. But then by the time that I'd, spent some time in the lucid dream, when I actually came to waking up, I'd forgotten about astral projecting, and so when I woke up, I moved and, naturally didn't get anywhere. Anyway, a few nights ago, I was up quite late, and I was in bed, and I was just thinking about the whole astral projection thing. I was thinking about how I made that video saying that I was going to learn how to do it and stuff, and I was thinking about how I kind of hadn't, practiced it as much as I should be. I said I was going to practice it every day, and I practiced it more every, 3 days. And I hadn't really made any progress other than a few times hitting the vibrational stage. And so I kind of was a bit disappointed in myself, and I was feeling maybe it's just not something for me, maybe I'm not going to get any further with it. And I kind of started doubting myself and started thinking, this isn't going to work out, this series is never going to get anywhere because I'm never actually going to project. And so I was kind of a bit down about that, kind of a bit disappointed, and I just went to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, I was actually expecting some new furniture. I got a new desk. I replaced my old furniture and got a new desk. Or in fact, I ordered a kitchen table because it was like the same size and shape as the desk I wanted. I wanted this kind of minimalist, just plain desk with 4 legs. I got myself a kitchen table because it was like a third of the price if I wanted to get a desk that was exactly the same size and shape and everything. And so that was arriving that day, and so I had to get up early for the delivery because it was a pay on delivery. I had to actually pay the delivery person. So I got up for that, and I took the desk inside and everything, and then I went back to sleep. I decided I was going back to sleep because I fell asleep quite late, so I hadn't actually slept that much at this time. It was like already late in the morning, but I hadn't got enough sleep, so I went back to bed and went to sleep. Now the next thing that I remember is I was in this field and I was looking at this tree and I see all these squirrels on it. Now if you guys have actually watched my recent video about reality checks, you'll remember that I mentioned that one of my dream signs is squirrels. And the last time that I encountered a squirrel, I performed a reality check and realised that I was awake and that it wasn't a dream. But I said that the next time I encounter this, it's probably going to be a dream. And guess what? It was. This time I saw these squirrels in the tree, I did a reality check and realised I was dreaming. So I thought, great, I'm dreaming. What now? And initially I thought about going off and having fun, but then I remembered, wait, I want to astral project. So what I did at this point was I closed my eyes in the dream and woke myself up, and then I remained perfectly still, and I just lay there perfectly still, not moving a muscle. Now I really felt like fidgeting, I really felt like using the bathroom as well, so it was really kind of hard to stay still like that, but I just focused all of my willpower into staying still. After a few moments, I could kind of tell that I was in sleep paralysis because I got this kind of weird sensation. I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of this weird sensation that comes over you when you're in sleep paralysis. Even if you don't try to move and you don't feel the fact that your body is fully paralysed, you kind of get this weird sensation. And I had that. So I thought at this point I'm going to try and do an exit technique. So I started off imagining the rope technique, but I found that it was kind of hard for me to imagine it in the normal way. So what I started imagining was I just imagined the kind of sensation of me jumping up with each, pull on the rope. And as I imagined this, after a few seconds of imagining this, I felt this sensation. It was like I just lifted up like a few feet into the air. It was almost like that sensation, if you've ever woken up from a dream where you were falling and you just have that kind of weird sensation like you just jumped up a bit. It was like that, but a bit more intense. And I felt that, and so I kept doing the rope technique, and I felt it again a few times. Now I just kept doing this over and over and over again, and I used other techniques a little bit, like I imagined myself moving forward and so on, and then I just focused on the rope technique. Now, as I'm doing this, I start to see something in front of me, and it's just a kind of white something, and I kind of focus in on it, and I can see it's a computer screen. And on this computer screen is a banking website. In particular, it's the banking website that I use, which I thought is kind of interesting. And I looked at it, and what was really interesting about this was that I could read everything on the page just fine. None of it was all blurry, none of the text was changing or anything. It all made sense, and it just looked like the normal banking page that I go on. And I noticed that this banking page was on a computer screen, and this computer screen was on a desk. And initially I thought, hey, this might be my desk. But then I looked at it, and this desk was white, and at the time I had a black desk. And also this desk was big and spacious and so on. And it just didn't look like my desk. Now here is where things get really weird, because I mentioned to you earlier that I was expecting a new desk, and that new desk was white. And later in that day, I ended up having a severe deja vu moment when I ended up on my banking website at that new desk and just remembered seeing the same thing that I saw at the start of my projection. I have no idea what that was. I guess maybe my brain, predicted how it was all going to look and stuff. But that was really quite surreal and weird. Anyway, after that, when I saw that, I was just looking at that for a moment, and then I felt this sensation like I was being sucked backwards into something. And I basically got sucked backwards through this kind of blackness, and then I was in somewhere completely different, away from this desk. And I was in some building. And I noticed something immediately, is that I couldn't walk around or anything. And the reason for that was that I didn't have a body whatsoever. I was just some kind of orb floating in the air or something like that. And to move around, I moved around with thought. I would just will myself in certain directions and I would move like that. It was really quite hard to move around at first because I wasn't familiar with this. I've actually done something similar before when flying in lucid dreams, like I've wheeled myself around, so I kind of picked up how to do it after a bit because I'd already done something similar before. But it started to feel more natural to me after like a minute or so of doing this. So I was flying around this building, and after some time it felt like I'd been doing this before, millions of times over, and it was almost as natural to me as walking. It was kind of a weird thing, it just felt normal to me. Like in a lucid dream, I've had lucid dreams before, like where my body isn't fully there and I can't control parts of my body, but it's really, really hard for me to maneuver in those dreams. It's really, really hard for me to move around without a body, like without my arms or without my legs or anything like that. But here it was just natural, it was just like second nature to me. And so I was moving around this place and I thought, at this point, like I knew that I had projected, I just knew. There's a very big difference between times where like I thought I might have projected, like there was never any doubt in my mind the few times that I have projected, like I just knew. And so I'm around and I thought I should look for details of what this place is, where I am. Now, I don't have a firm belief really whether you're actually leaving your body or it's just something in your mind like dreams are. I don't really know, and I'm trying to explore that, so that's why I thought I should look around for any details, because if you are actually leaving your body, then surely I should be able to find some information and, where this place is or whatever, and maybe if I have enough projections I could actually verify some information, corroborate some information. So I'm flying around, and the next thing that strikes me is just how clear this is. My vision is completely clear all the time, and if I look at something and I look away and I look back, it stays the same. It doesn't change like in a lucid dream. And everything is so crystal clear, like it's almost clearer than real life. In fact, for me, it's definitely clearer than real life because I don't have the best vision in real life. And in lucid dreams, like basically parts of my vision are clearer than real life, but it's always kind of patchy. Like if I look up at the sky, for example, it kind of seems like not super real. But in this thing, like everything just looked real, like I was in the real world. And so I'm looking around, exploring this building, trying to find something to indicate where I am. And I get through into this room and I see these like metal shelves, like long metal shelves, and they're just completely like full of bread. Like there's loads of loaves of bread on them. And at this point I just kind of instinctively know something, and that is that this is some kind of industrial bakery. Like the word bread factory comes into my head. And so I kind of explore it some more. I'm looking through different rooms and so on, and there's a lot more bread, and it's quite a big building. It struck me just how big this building was. It definitely wasn't a small bakery, it was definitely something industrial scale. And I go through some more rooms, and I end up in this room where there are two people in this room. There was a woman who was kind of dressed like business-like, she was the boss there or something like that. And there was a guy who was dressed in like some kind of apron or lab coat, like in white. And he was obviously working for her, or being given instructions by her. And they were looking through this kind of like glass pane into like another room. Like it opened, I think there was a door there as well that opened through or something, but they were looking through this glass pane, and I remember to the left of it was like this red button, kind of like those big red buttons you sometimes see to open a door or whatever. But I seemed to somehow feel that this button was to control like some ovens somewhere. And he was showing her something through the window. He was like pointing at things and trying to show her things. And I felt like they were having a conversation. But something interesting is that I don't remember ever hearing any actual words, or actually knowing what language they were speaking or anything like that. I just felt like they were having a conversation. Now I don't know if that was because I didn't hear what they were saying, or if I just wasn't paying attention to it, or what. But anyway, I was kind of interested in this, and I watched it for a moment, and I decided, I don't want to be in some industrial bakery. I want to actually explore. So I fly through the walls, and this is another thing of note. In lucid dreams, this is really annoyingly hard for me. I sometimes have to, fly through a wall to get out somewhere because I can't find an exit. And for me, it's kind of hard. Like I have to really focus to be able to do it, because if not, then I just bump into the wall and walk off. Whereas in this experience, it was the complete opposite. Like I couldn't touch something if I wanted to. Like if I wanted to touch a wall and feel it, I couldn't. I didn't have hands to do that in the first place anyway. But I just flew straight through anything. I flew through, walls, through objects, through people. And so I was just flying through the walls and exploring this place and trying to find an exit. And eventually, after going through several corridors and rooms, I saw a fire exit sign. I saw the green sign, it said exit in white letters, and it had the little fire exit thing. And there was a door next to it. So I went up and I flew through the fire exit and I was outside. Now, the first thing that I noticed was that it was very dark outside. When I did this, it was probably about midday my time where I was. But it looked like, maybe 4 or 5 a.m. or something like that, where this place was. And I looked around and I noticed that I could see well even though it was dark. And I don't know if that was because there were street lamps, because I can't remember if I saw street lamps or not, or if it was just that I could see in the dark. But I looked around and I tried to find something identifying about the place. And the first thing that I noticed was there was snow on the ground. Now, this wasn't a lot of snow. This was like, if you have a place that it doesn't snow all the time and it kind of has a day of a bunch of snow, but then it's all melted, the day after, and you just get a bit of slush on the edges of the roads and a little bit of snow left over, like on the grass and stuff. That was what it looked like. There wasn't much snow there. And so I tried to remember this because maybe this would help identify a location if I could. So I looked around, I saw some people walking along the side of the road. I just explored down several alleys and so on. And at one point it hit me, like, just how stable this was. Like, when I have a lucid dream, that is probably the number one issue that I still have with lucid dreaming, even after 8 years of doing it, is maintaining stability. When I was actually meditating right before bed, I didn't have this problem so much. But now that I'm meditating in the mornings, I have the problem again, that I would say about a third of my lucid dreams just are not stable enough to keep going. So, the other 2/3, I can keep them going, but I still have to make an effort to actually keep the dream stable. Whereas with this thing, I wasn't having to make an effort whatsoever. It was just stable by itself. Like, I was even testing that stability, trying to make it, be unstable just to see if that would work, but it wouldn't. But then I did think about one thing that I remembered, and I remembered that people had said that if you think about your body while you're astral projecting, that you get sucked back to your body. And so I thought about that and I was concerned about that, and obviously doing that made me think about my body, but I noticed I wasn't sucked back, but I kind of was a bit paranoid about that happening, so I decided, I need to think about something else. So I tried to just distract my mind with all sorts of other thoughts. One interesting thing to note, I was thinking completely clearly, like I was awake, like there wasn't even a fragment of reduced consciousness there, it seemed. And so I distracted myself and kind of went around, but I kind of lost sight of what I wanted to do. In other words, I forgot that, I was meant to be identifying the place, if possible. I do seem to remember that it felt like a city to me rather than a small town. And I felt like it was kind of English, US type architecture and so on. So I kind of got an America or Canada vibe from it. But anyway, shortly after that, because I kind of didn't have any focus and didn't know what I was going to do, I did find myself eventually back in my body. So I was back in my body and I was really excited. I immediately wrote this down. So I want to raise my thoughts on this experience based on this. So first of all, this is actually my longest astral projection so far. My previous experiences were very, very short and fleeting, and so I couldn't really make up my mind what had happened. But after this experience, I feel I'm more certain than I was before that this is something different from lucid dreaming. However, I once again want to add the disclaimer that when I say that, I'm not referring to the idea that you're necessarily leaving your body. I just mean that it is a different type of experience. It could be a different type of dream, for example. But it does have these different characteristics that set it apart from a standard lucid dream. The most notable of which being the kind of extreme clarity and stability that it has. Now, most likely, if you think that this is a type of dream, then I would say this is a dream where you have, utter clarity, and for whatever reason, there is kind of no lapse in that, like there is in a standard dream. Another notable thing was that the scenery around me didn't change. I was able to look at things, look away, look back, and things just didn't change. Things were the same. They were static rather than dynamic, like in a lucid dream. So if this is a type of dream, or a type of, internal experience, then what I'm thinking is that something different is going on inside the brain that is, causing it to not change, that is causing it to, produce a set type of experience that as you're going through, it's not changing as much as a lucid dream. Now, I've heard other people say that, the astral is very thought reactive and that, thinking about certain things can change the scenery around you, like in a dream. But I didn't experience that, so I don't know whether that's, because it's different for me or different in this experience, if these people were having lucid dreams at the time when they had that, or if it's just a characteristic that is slightly different. It might be that it's less reactive than a lucid dream, but it's not entirely unreactive. And the next thing was, of course, the fact that I didn't have a body. I was just this kind of disembodied orb. And after that was also the fact that my vision was a little bit different. I don't really know how to describe it, but it was like I wasn't looking just straight ahead. I think Robert Bruce talks about this a bit. He talks about how you can like see in 360 degrees. Now I don't remember seeing in 360 degrees. I don't remember seeing in every single direction at once. But it was almost like I could see more than just, you know, the field of view in front of me. Like I could kind of see in different directions at the same time, but I was kind of usually focusing in one direction because that was what I was used to. I don't really know how to describe it. If you've astral projected before, then you probably know what I'm talking about. But back onto the astral projection versus lucid dreaming comparison thing. If we can at least agree that it's a different type of dream. If it's a you know dream, it's a different type of dream. There are different characteristics that separate it from a standard lucid dream. The one thing that I want to bring up is I notice there are a lot of people who astral project who do believe that they are the same thing, that you know that they occur in the same place and so on. And I know Michael Raduga's book The Phase talks about all of these experiences happening in this thing called the phase. And he does actually make a distinction between astral projection and lucid dreaming there, but he just talks about the phase and he talks about methods for getting to the phase. He never really specifies that this method is for lucid dreaming or for astral projection. And so I think that there may be a lot of people who are taking methods from the phase that are more apt for lucid dreaming, because I noticed that when I was reading the book The Phase, is that some of the methods there were things that yes, you could do and you would have a projection from, but other ones there just seem to be wild, basically. And you know, I've done some of those techniques. Some of the things that he mentions in The Phase are to me just wild, like I will have a lucid dream if I do that, whereas other ones will produce a projection for me, which to me suggests that may be where some of the confusion is coming from about lucid dreaming versus astral projection. Because I think some people may be performing methods that they think are for astral projection when in actual fact they are just a lucid dreaming method. But I definitely think that these experiences are generated in a different way. Whether you believe they're both types of dream, or whether you believe that it's something completely different and you're actually leaving your body, or something else that I haven't mentioned, I think that there is a different aspect of consciousness going on in this experience. A different part of your brain is active or something. And so I think that you do need to get there in a different way. I don't think that you can get to a projection via wild. I don't think you can get to a lucid dream via, the rope method. And so I do think this distinction has to be made. A couple of people did comment on my previous video about my, almost successful attempt, saying that, I did project and that, I don't need to think so much about it and try to classify which is which. But for me, I do feel the need to do that because I find these experiences completely different. In those experiences where I thought I projected, I kind of knew I didn't afterwards because, there were certain characteristics that just didn't apply. It just felt like a dream. The world was changing around me. I had my normal dream body and so on. Whereas in the experiences where I projected, there was no doubt. It was completely a different type of experience. And so for me to classify them as the same thing just doesn't make sense. Now, as for why these experiences are different, I honestly do not know. I do lean towards the idea that this is something that happens in your brain, and that, even if you are seeing something externally, it's probably information coming in rather than you going out. Because I kind of don't like this idea of us, leaving our bodies, because to me, we are not our bodies in the first place. To me, we are all interconnected. We are all one in a sense, and so there is no kind of you to leave the body. You're not some kind of disembodied soul sitting inside a body. That's not the way that I see things. And so the idea of you leaving your body and going on a travel somewhere just seems to me silly. To me, you wouldn't need to travel anywhere to experience something outside of you, because I believe all things are connected. Now, that's just my, interesting way of looking at things. You might disagree with that. But I feel that, it's likely happening in the brain like a lucid dream. Whether or not you actually can get information from outside is up for debate, and something that I don't have an opinion on yet, because I haven't had any experiences that have given me information, from outside of my body. But it seems to me something that's happening in the brain, and it seems to me something that is different from lucid dreaming, suggesting that a different part of the brain is involved. Now, I need to experiment more with it to try and figure out what is different about this. One theory that I did hear a long time ago, and I don't remember where I heard this, but I heard this theory that basically certain parts of your brain that are not active when you're lucid dreaming are active when you're having an OBE or an astral projection. Basically, more parts of your brain are active, and so you're kind of at a more higher level of consciousness. So you could even think of it as like a super lucid dream, where you're just more and more awake than in a regular lucid dream. Okay, so sorry about the cut in the video. Apparently my camera just lost all of the other footage that I'd recorded. There wasn't that much more of the video though, so I'm kind of going to give my closing thoughts here. So the bit of the video that got cut off is basically I was saying how I feel like this should be studied more. I feel like if we actually got a large enough group of people who are astral projecting and a large enough group of people who are lucid dreaming, and we actually did brain scans to actually see what activity was going on in their brains while they were doing this, I think that we would see a difference between the two. And also I think it's worth mentioning that with doing this, you would have to be careful about who you selected, because as I said earlier, I think there is some confusion, and I definitely think there are people who are performing, wild and thinking that they're astral projecting when they're not, and so on. And so the results would kind of be a bit skewed if you ended up with people like that. You would have to find people who are definitely projecting, and I think probably the easiest way of trying to do that would just be finding people who are just doing, say, the rope technique or something that you know is purely a projection technique. But there's definitely something very different going on here, and I really want to learn more about it. I want to experiment more with this, have more astral projections, and see if I can, try to get to the bottom of this a bit. Obviously, I'm just one person, and I'm not, a researcher. I'm not going to be able to tell you guys what's going on in the brain or anything like that. But I can at least have some more experiences and try and figure out a theory for what's going on. And so I want to do that, and I want to also, probe the idea, are we actually leaving our bodies? Is it all internal? And see and try and figure that all out. Anyway, sorry that this video has dragged on so long. I was originally going to try and cut it down and remove some information and so on, but I just felt like all of this information that I gave in here was stuff that I wanted to keep in. I didn't want to cut it down or shorten it. So hopefully you guys have actually stuck through to the end. If you have, you're awesome. Let me know down below that you've actually watched the whole video, because you're awesome if you've done that. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you want more videos, remember to subscribe up there. And if you want to keep watching, check out the video that's linked on screen. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.